A lot to discuss around the National Football League this week. Not often in the middle of May does the NFL dominate the sports headlines, but we do have the schedule release day around the NFL and some big news in the ATL yesterday as well, where we find our guy, Mark Zeno, who joins us live right here for the next two segments on this Wednesday on the early line. We won't talk about Karis LeVert. We won't talk about game number 4 in Cleveland. It's on to greener pastures here, Mark Zeno, on this Wednesday.
I noticed you picked the word greener, as in green as in Boston Celtics, who took me on quite the roller coaster ride, only to have me have a conniption at the end of that game. And Karis LeVert, well, I can't speak why he has a knee injury. I don't know anything about it. All I could say is it wasn't me.
Eesh. I mean, if you're listen, we're not going to point any fingers here. I mean, you know what they're saying out here on the early line. But, Zeno, you are in Atlanta. And for the first time yesterday, since the 2024 NFL Draft, we heard from Kirk Cousins, who was speaking about the Falcons drafting Michael Penix Jr. at 8th overall. Here's what Kirk had to say.
Yeah, no, it's pretty straightforward. I was at the team event at the stadium, was just driving back, and they called me and just said, hey, we're gonna take a quarterback here at the pick. And I said, okay. And that was pretty straightforward. Yeah, I think it's similar to the call that Mark D'Antonio made to me in 2000. That would have been 2007. And he said, hey, we're going to offer another quarterback. I know you've signed Nick Foles. You know, you guys are going to have to compete. And it's like, okay, you know, let's just take the next step. And then I was drafted right with Robert Griffin. And it's, hey, you know, you're going there with another quarterback in the same class. Okay. This is more the norm than the exception. And I think the response is that this is the exception, when really, if you know my story, you know, this is more the norm of the journey, and it's more of a, okay, you know, let's just start working and start building together.
You know, I appreciate a Michigan State shout out to Mark D'Antonio in the former days for Captain Kirk in East Lansing. That clip provided, by the way, from 11 Alive News' Maria Martin. He was also further asked, was Kirk Cousins, about the idea. Had Atlanta already informed him they were going to use their top 10 pick, 8th overall, on a QB, would he have signed with the Falcons franchise this offseason? And Kirk basically said, I don't deal in hypotheticals. What did you make of his response to the Michael Penix Jr. draft pick, for the first time made clear in public?
Well, we know clearly at this point, given the reporting and everything else, we feel pretty confident in saying that at best, Kirk was never informed that taking Michael Penix was in the Falcons' plans until that phone call on draft night was made, right? Like, it was a general assumption, whether it was spoken or not, that he was going to be the guy. And that question that was asked by the Atlanta media about had they told him about it in the recruiting pitch is 100% fair, and it's the right question to ask. This is why you don't purposely create a quarterback controversy like the Falcons did. That question is fair. Questions about Kirk's job security after a bad start will be fair. Questions to Raheem Morris about making a switch at quarterback will be totally fair. All that is in bounds when you have done what the Falcons have done, and that is why you don't create a quarterback controversy on your own. If one develops because you have two guys who can play, that happens. Sometimes you can't control that, but you don't want to create this intentionally, and that's what the Falcons have done, and all these questions will be fair. Look, this is Atlanta, folks. And whether you want to hear this or not, the reality is that black quarterbacks in Atlanta have an affinity from the fan base. And there is a reason why, because this city has such traditions and such history in the civil rights movement. All that stuff is fair. So it's the reason why they clamored for Justin Fields to come here. It's the reason why that anytime there's a quarterback controversy that runs around, they are always looking to the backup. And so I think all this stuff plays into it. Michael Penix deserves a shot to start in the NFL, and he's going to get it when we don't know that it is. And will it be for the Falcons? Guys, I don't know how this works out where it makes sense. Either you drafted the wrong guy or you paid the wrong guy. Like, it's really hard to be right on both.
It is odd because you understand the philosophy of what they're saying. Well, we'll never be in the top 10 again. We expect to be good and to be a perfect handoff, but you can't do that in a salary cap league and blow a top 10 pick. Mark, it wasn't as if this was a late third round pick where Penix fell. It's like, we really couldn't pass this up. We got a stud wide receiver in round number 1, a defensive end in round number 2. Now we got our quarterback. This is just a plethora. We couldn't pass it up. I get that. But if we're looking also from inside the room, you will always hear this from coaches because coaches don't have to compete against anything. And being a player myself, most people say the fallacy of, "Ooh, I love a good competition." You know when you love competition? When you're not the starter. You get to compete to try to take down the starter. You know when you don't love competition? Is when you're the actual starter, which Kirk Cousins is. And you're right. These questions are now arising that shouldn't happen. But let me ask you this. In a perfect world, what actually does happen for the Falcons? Like, when is the handoff? Kirk Cousins wins 2 Super Bowls, then retires, then you give it to Penix? I mean, what are they actually anticipating here?
That's the only win-win. I mean, at some point in time, again, I'm still wondering why Falcons fans have made this assumption all of a sudden that Penix is the guy. Like, he'll be handed the torch and he will move forward and everything will be seamless and all of a sudden he'll continue to win. When in reality, we know the 6 quarterbacks taken, likely percentages of history tell us that only 2 of those guys are going to be worthwhile. The other 4 are just not going to be very good. That's just the reality of drafting first-round quarterbacks. So beyond that, beyond assuming that Penix is going to be good, if the Falcons make the playoffs this year and next year, and let's just say they even reach an NFC championship game, let's just say at a minimum they only win 1 playoff game and they lose in the divisional round both years. Are you benching Kirk Cousins and cutting Kirk Cousins in favor of a guy who's never taken a snap in anger? How do you pull the trigger on that? Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. And if Kirk Cousins plays so bad and the Falcons don't make the playoffs, then what'd you pay the guy $180 million for? Like, you totally whiffed on that one. And now you're in a salary cap issue area, possibly, with Kirk Cousins' money. It's so hard to get this into a tight window where it all fits and works out for everybody. The only thing I'll say is this, guys. If Michael Penix ends up being very good, it's easily forgotten about down the road in the big picture.
Yeah, but it's very interesting for Terry Fontenot, the GM in Atlanta, to almost guarantee that we'd never be drafting in the top 10 again for a franchise that hasn't won more than 7 games in 6 seasons. And if you're not doing that, it makes no sense. And even further, if it's only 2 years of Kirk, Penix has 1 year to start and wow Atlanta for them to pick up his 5th year option of his rookie deal. So many confusing things.